Salutations everyone and welcome to What Mattered, the show where I tell you what mattered in the news this week. The Game Awards were this week, and I'd like to thank you all for voting What Mattered as the #1 weekly news show on a YouTube channel with less than 16,000 subscribers. It really means a lot. This one goes out to you guys. So the Game Awards seem to be the most prestigious award. We've had a long history of really awkward video game award shows and a couple of different ones every year, but this one seems to be, after the past 2 or 3 years, this one seems to be the most established one. It's the one that I feel like most people talk about, most people watch, and it was funny because the VOD got muted on YouTube because of copyright claim, which is hilarious and just goes to show you how broken YouTube is with their content ID stuff. And the awards were always, a subject for debate. We had, that Dragon Cancer that won for the Impactful Award. I feel like the games that came out early in the year that everyone thought were going to be Game of the Year contenders, that like Deus Ex and Witcher 3, got a little bit shafted because they came out earlier in the year. Like any award show, any video game that comes out closer to the awards are going to be more fresh in the voters' minds, and those are the ones that are going to get the attention. But the big winners were Doom and Overwatch, which won esports, multiplayer, and Game of the Year. Uncharted won a couple of awards as well. And we had your boy Nolan North winning for Best Vocal Performance. And during his speech, he had something to say about the Performance Matters hashtag that's going on around striking voice actors for SAG-AFTRA. I don't know how you're supposed to say that acronym. But he was saying that the performance matters, the performance of the programmers and the developers, and how their performance is just so good, and his performance wouldn't exist without them. And this is definitely a controversial topic because voice actors it's a very antiquated contract they have back before, this was made, I think, in the 80s or the early 90s. I think maybe mid-90s, actually, at the latest. So, but, voice acting has changed since then, and there's a lot of things that haven't, come up with the times that definitely need to be changed, as well as how payment is doled out. But Nolan North, along with many other people, are citing that the game developers aren't getting other compensations as well, and the fact that they work more so on the game and their impact is, 100 times bigger than a voice actor's performance based off of the amount of work that they do for the game. And this is something that SAG-AFTRA is, criticizing. It's like, oh, you think you should be paid more than developers? And it's like, well, they're a different union, so I feel like if the voice actors get, a bump and show that their performance matters, getting different kinds of pay for different kinds of work, whether it be mocap performance or doing efforts and screamings for, different kinds of things to help, the longevity of a voice actor's career, as well as, royalties if a game sells a certain amount of copies, that the developers should as well, but that is not something that's really up, in their control. So it is a little bit of a double-edged sword. I feel like, both voice actors and game devs aren't getting the rewards that they should be getting for games. That's just my own 2 cents. Nolan North was a little bit more pointed in his criticism of the movement, and everybody has their own opinions on it. Hideo Kojima made his appearance, as many expected him to. He was brought on the stage to accept the award that Konami wouldn't let him get last year, when they held him legitimately as a prisoner for the final 6 months of Metal Gear Solid 5. And he also showed a trailer of the Death Stranding game. No Norman Reedus this time, but we had plenty of black goo and dead babies to make you go like, all right, yeah, this is the same game, all right. Looks like we might have our antagonist, which people are really excited for. And it's really creepy, it's really mysterious, so I think everyone is still on board for this. It's still so weird the way that Konami handled Kojima and canceling Silent Hill after the enormous success of PT maybe we'll never know what exactly happened there, but we do know Konami was in the wrong and were stupid in the way they handled everything, and Kojima's going to be continuing to make great games, so yeah, that's what we know. There was a few, trailers and announcements of games. We have official confirmation that Telltale's next game will be Guardians of the Galaxy. That'll be coming out in 2017. No word if there's going to be any of the actors from the movies, which is obviously how, this IP came back into the spotlight in the first place. Even the comic book wasn't all that successful once it got the reboots, 10 years ago or so. But a lot of people are excited for that because of the way that those characters were portrayed on screen. And we know that the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is coming out next year, so we don't know if those will coincide or come out at the same time. It's very vague, as always, when it comes to those release dates. We also know that the next Walking Dead will be coming out, and I believe they said that it's going to come out with 2 episodes at the very beginning. But the biggest story was the official gameplay reveal of Mass Effect Andromeda. I did a podcast about it with a couple of friends that I posted yesterday, so go back and watch yesterday's video if you want an in-depth conversation on all of that gameplay and everything that we've seen so far from N7 Day and the PS4 Pro event. But it all comes down to the movement is completely changed. We have the jetpacks, the removal of the Omni button, which was the A button that did everything in the game, which made everything very difficult, but they're completely changing that. They're getting rid of the pause feature and the power wheel, but to combat that, you're more mobile and you're going to have separate cooldowns for all of your powers. They showed quite a few powers, including multi-frag, biotic charge, incinerate, cryoblast, possibly adrenaline rush, possibly, a few other things that we can't really, tell at this point. They also showed some new things. We saw a biotic shield. We saw a portable cover. We did see a Turian wearing tech armor that you were fighting, so tech armor kind of confirmed. We're super psyched that it's here, but, no official confirmation. I'm pretty sure they're waiting for a huge reveal to show that, tech armor is going to be a usable power in-game. You're not going to be stuck to one certain kind of class, as was pointed out in the Game Informer article. You can take powers from anything that you want. Ket seems to be the hostile force, at least, in some portion of the game. We only know of 2 of your squad mates at this point, PB and Liam, which is an Asari and a human male, respectively. And the combat looks awesome. The multiplayer is going to be super duper cool, and the fact that the controls are going to be absolutely the same from single player to multiplayer, as opposed to how it was in Mass Effect 3. This is more streamlined, and the movement and combat is very different, but I think for the better. According to a report, the next PlayStation event is going to announce the arrival of Marvel vs. Capcom 4. Other sources say that this is a reboot of the series, which doesn't make sense for a fighting game that doesn't really have a centralized story throughout the franchise. But hey, it sounds like we're getting another Marvel vs. Capcom game. There is supposedly going to be more of a focus on Marvel Cinematic Universe characters. They're going to be put in the game that we know from the movies, maybe not necessarily adaptations of the on-screen characters, but those characters as a whole from the comics. Maybe more characters from Guardians of the Galaxy, more characters from X-Men, more characters that we see in the Avengers movies and all that stuff, which, is definitely going to change things. We don't know what kind of balances are going to be struck between how things were in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which was a very highly praised game, pretty fun game, and something we saw at a lot of fighting tournaments. Always definitely a lot of fun to see. And with King of Fighters being the last fighting video game that came out this year, this looks like the way to ramp up the 2017 season until, we get Street Fighter 5 EX or EO or Alpha 12. Whatever new version they're going to come up with, which they said there's not going to be Street Fighter 6 until I think they said 2020. So yeah, fighting games, always very interesting with their new iterations as well. So maybe this will be the first one coming out for 2016. We also know that Injustice 2 will be coming out, where hopefully there's less super overpowered characters. Batgirl. Your PS Plus free games for December go as follows. For the PS4, you get Invisible, Incorporated, and Stories Path of Destinies. On the PS3, you'll be getting Hypervoid and Tiny Troopers Joint Ops, which is crossplay via PS3, PS4, and the Vita. Also on the Vita, you'll be getting Color Guardians, which is also cross-buy via PS4, and you also get VVV on the Vita as well. Any Hootie and the Blowfish, that is what mattered this week. If you'd like to know what matters in the future, hit the subscribe button. One of these videos comes out every single Saturday. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.